Today we're doing the front brakes on a Mercedes-Benz 2008 CLS 550 sedan. I've taken the cap off of the brake fluid reservoir and put some rags around it to catch any excess brake fluid that may come out when I recompress the cylinders. Here on the front right caliper on the passenger side, you'll see that this caliper is fitted with a brake sensor. The driver's side doesn't have one. It only has one here, and we'll be replacing this today when we change the brake pads. You can see that the brake pads are only held in by a pin here and a pin here. If you knock those pins out, they come out very easy. Then the brake pads come out, they'll come straight out. Okay, I'm going to take the brake pads out now. They should slide out fairly easy. There's the brake pad sensor. You can grip them with a pair of channel locks and they'll just pull straight out. Okay, both brake pads are out. They're not in bad shape, even though these brake pads are, I think, going on 7 years old. The caliper is held on by 2 bolts. The socket size is 18 millimeters and they're very easy to get to. There's the first bolt, and then there's one more bolt here on the bottom that I'll take out. Okay, and there's the second bolt, and that's the only thing that holds the caliper on, is that. Now, you have to be very careful. Do not let the caliper hang by its weight on the brake hose and the wire. What you want to do is tie it up here with a piece of wire to keep the weight off those hoses. Okay, now I have the caliper hung up here on the wire. There's no weight on the hoses, and the next thing I'm going to do is take off the rotor. Anyone who's ever done brakes before knows that these little set screws can be a real pain. I went ahead and bought an impact driver. This is the best thing to have if you do brakes a lot, and that will take this screw out. There we go. This is the locating screw for the rotor. I always replace these screws because they come with Loctite already on them, and they can be difficult to get out. They're cheap and inexpensive, so it's just easier to go ahead and replace them. Okay, now I'm going to take off the rotor, and it just slides off, and you can see there's the hub. I like to make sure that these hubs are very clean, so I'll wire wheel this off and clean it, and then put anti-seize on it, so it'll be a lot easier to take the wheel off the next time. I sprayed it off with some brake cleaner. I just want to make sure it's nice and clean and oil free. Now this wheel hadn't been off in, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years, because we don't put a lot of miles on this car. So, and it was in pretty good shape, so it pays off to keep things clean and put some anti-seize on it. This is some basic anti-seize lubricant from Permatex. I got it from the auto parts store, and I'm just going to put a nice coat on here on the metal surface that goes between the flange and the brake rotor, and that'll keep things from corroding, keep it nice and clean, and make it a lot easier to take off years from now when we go back to do this again. Okay, I've got the new rotor ready to put on. I buy my parts. I like to buy the axle pack from partsgeek.com. This is what I prefer to do. The company is Centric Parts. I've had really good luck with them, and you can buy the package that comes with the brakes, the pads, and the rotors, all the hardware. Everything comes in one box. This is the new rotor, centric rotor. Just took it out of the package. This is the medium high grade rotor. It costs a little bit more. In my experience with these is that they get a good service life out of them, and they're very reasonably priced. Now, before I mount this, I want to spray it off with brake cleaner because it's covered with a preservative. So I want to make sure that I get all of that oil preservative off of there before I mount it. Okay, I'm going to mount the rotor on the hub. I have a new screw here I bought also from Parts Geek. You can see it's already got the Loctite on it. I always replace these. I think it's just a good practice. Okay, I've given everything a good cleaning with brake cleaner, and we're ready to remount the caliper now before we put the new brake pads in it. Okay, I'm going to put the 2 bolts in that mount the caliper. Put some Loctite blue on the threads. You want to make sure you use Loctite blue because you'll want to get these out again at some point. Okay, the bottom bolt is on. Now I'm going to do the top bolt. A little bit of Loctite blue, and then the caliper will be mounted. Okay, I've got the 2 bolts mounted in the caliper. Now I'm just going to tighten it up. Okay, the caliper bolts are tight. They don't need to be very tight. Just follow the torque spec in the maintenance manual. I'm going to go back onto these with a torque wrench, and then once that's done, we will put the brake pads in. Okay, the trick to making sure that you can successfully put the new brake pads in is to make sure that these caliper cylinders are completely collapsed. What I like to do is take the old pads and slide them back in. They slide in because they're worn. They slide in really easy. Old brake pads in, I just pry against them and make sure that those cylinders are completely collapsed, and that way you make sure that the new brake pads go in fairly easy. Okay, I've fitted the new brake pads just to make sure that they go in, which means that the caliper's completely collapsed. Now I'm going to take them back out, put some ceramic grease on the back side, and then do the regular installation. Okay, I'm going to coat the back of the brakes with ceramic lubricant. And they say that you do these back shims here, so I'm just going to give that a liberal coat there and slide this brake pad in. And I'm going to do the same for the other one. You can see I've already got the sensor installed, and I just want to get some lubricant on there. This keeps the brakes from squealing and helps them move around in the slots that they're provided. And then I'm just going to slide this. The Parts Geek axle pack provides you with new hardware. So these are the pins that hold the brakes in, and this is the new spring clip. Okay, I've got the bottom spring clip mounted, and then I'm going to put the top one in. This one takes a little bit, you have to push it a little bit to find the hole. You have to do that on both sides. And once that's lined up, then just take a hammer and lightly tap the back of these pins until they're well seated. Once the pins are in, lined up through the spring clip, then take a punch and hit it from the back side and make sure that these little locks on the back of the pins are well seated. Okay, the pins are all the way in now and well seated. You can see about how much is sticking out of the hole on this side. The only thing holding these pins in is this spring clip here. The last thing that we're going to do is plug in the brake sensor, and that just goes straight in, and that's it. Installation is complete. The last thing I like to do when we finish is give everything a good douse of brake cleaner. Make sure it's all nice and oil free, and these brakes will probably last us another 3 or 4 years.